Welcome. I thank you for being here tonight and giving me the opportunity to share some creative therapy with all of you. Certainly a time that we could use some creative therapy. It's been a long March. Think of what we were doing and what we were thinking about beginning March 1st till now. And lots of changes. And so I think it's good for us to take a break from reality and just escape by doing something creative and fun. Tonight I decided that I wanted to use a stamp set that I've purchased but had not used yet. So I looked through my stash, and this one, Artfully Aware, is one that stood out to me. And when I looked at all the sentiments, I thought, oh, this is appropriate for the time that we're in. I'll just very quickly share that this stamp set was designed in part by one of Stampin' Up's $1 million sales achievers, Janet Wakeland. Really very successful demonstrator. I pay attention to some of her training and what she does in her business, and have really picked up some great business advice from her. But this stamp set is, the story behind it is Janet's mom has Alzheimer's, and it goes into all the thought about caring not only for the Alzheimer's persons, but all the other caregivers, everybody involved in that. So it's very much in honor of not just people who suffer with Alzheimer's, but their caregivers. And it's about giving support and love and being there for each other. And it just seemed like it was also very appropriate for what we are going through right now in our daily lives. So that's the reason I picked Artfully Aware. It is in the holiday catalog. And I'm sorry, not the holiday catalog. It is in our annual catalog right now. And I'm also featuring watercolor pencils. We are not going to be watercoloring. We are just going to do some coloring with them. But I want to show you something really cool. We have two sets. The original set has 13 colors. And then we have a second add-on set, which has another 10 colors. And they are pencils that coordinate directly to Stampin' Up colors. They are not generic colors, they are Stampin' Up colors. So something you've probably seen me use a lot. People who have done past classes with me may have had the opportunity to use them. And what I'm going to show you now is a very simple card. When I pulled out this stamp set and thought, what am I going to do with it? I went to Pinterest, and a lot of times I'll just scroll through Pinterest 5 minutes, 10 minutes max. I don't spend a lot of time there because of how busy I am. And when I do go there, it's sort of like I'm just looking for inspiration, not necessarily to copy exactly. So usually I'll go on there, something strikes me, and I'll take a good look, maybe even refer back to the blog it came from, something like that. And then I turn off my computer, turn off Pinterest, and go do some creating on my own. But this is the card that I saw on Pinterest. And for some reason, out of all the cards there listed for Artfully Aware stamp set, it just kind of spoke to me about the simplicity of it. And the simplicity, there's a lot of turmoil and changes going on in our life, but when it comes right down to it, we're all living a much more simple life than we have in the past. So there you go, the simplicity. But then also, I'm a hugger. Probably lots of you are huggers, so this is an unusual time for me. If my sister and her family come by, or Andrea was here today, that's a very hard thing for me to want to be hugging people and know we have to keep our distance. And you may have seen that kind of thing, the struggle is real on Facebook, and it's true. But I just really like the sketch art in the stamp set, and you know, leaning on each other and there for support, but just the simplicity of this really spoke to me. So I thought, well, I can't just get on Facebook Live and show you, you know, a piece of folded cardstock with 2 stamps on it. So I decided I would start by showing you this and then show you 4 more cards that I've made to step up. So a lot of times we go from a simple card when we're beginner stampers to something a little bit more involved, and then maybe we've been stamping for a long time, or we have lots of products we want to try, and therefore we keep adding and adding and adding, and all of a sudden we think, wow, I started out with a good card, but now I've got something that just says wow. So this is what I call stepping up. So there's the first card. Here's the second. Again, still very simple. All I did was add a mat to that stamped. I cut out the, what do I want to say? I cut a piece of crumb cake cardstock, the size I wanted, and then I matted it on a piece of black cardstock, just like that, with a small 1/8 inch border. For the next card, I actually added 2 steps. I added another layer, background layer of the crumb cake, but I embossed it with our subtle embossing folder, okay? And then I also, I guess there are 3 steps actually, so that's one difference, 1 step up. The next step up is coloring the images of the 2 people hugging or leaning on one another for support. And then I also, instead of adhering directly to the card front, I use some Stampin' dimensionals between the layers. I went another step further. This time I cut a piece of our Neutrals Designer Series paper. This is 1.5 by 4 inches. And I tucked it on behind my layers. And then for the 5th one, what I did was added this twine bow. And this black twine comes from the Country Club twine pack. It's got the 4 colors in. Even if you haven't purchased any of the other Country Club products, this may be something that you really enjoy having on hand and using for cards, treat bags, you name it. And then I also colored some of the silver metallic pearls, silver metallic pearls. These pearls are sold in a set with both a sheet of silver and a sheet of gold. And I colored these black with my Stampin' Blends dark basic black marker. All right, so let's make one together. I'm not going to make all 5, obviously, but we'll make one together. I'll change up the colors a little bit. Be sure and comment and tell me what you think, perhaps about the stamp set. Does it speak to you? How about the watercolor pencils? Have you used them? What do you think? Do you like them? Have you not used them but would like to give them a try? That sort of thing. And also comment other ways that you can think of that you might choose to step up my basic card or any other project you're working on. Each time that you comment, your name gets entered into a drawing for this card that I'm going to make. I did want to tell you a couple things about the watercolor pencils. Most often when I'm using these, I do take it a next step and blend the colors. Like here you can see all of my pencil strokes. You can use either a blender pen or an aqua painter with very light strokes and blend in the pencil strokes so that you just get a nicer, smoother look without the look of actually seeing the pencil strokes. Either way, you get a great, just a really great image. I'm going to use our Bermuda Bay. I'll change it up and put the Bermuda Bay on the shorter person. I'll put the stamp set over here in case you want to take another look at it. You know me, I love sentiments, and something I really like to do, something that really fills my soul, is to be able to be a support to other people when I can, in any way that I know how to be. So again, I just really like this stamp set for so many reasons. Actually, the purple, I believe we talked about Alzheimer's and this stamp set being designed in part by Janet Wakeland, whose mother has Alzheimer's and whose father cares for her, as well as other members of the family, including Janet. But I think purple might be the color for Alzheimer's awareness. I do want to tell you that these watercolor pencils, when you are coloring like this, you can erase if you put the color someplace you don't want it. And I can share with you proof, because on each of these 3 that I colored, I guess I wasn't seeing the image correctly, but I had filled in white here thinking it was part of the shirt, and after I got all 3 colored, I realized, oh no, that's not part of this woman's shirt, it's the space between the 2 bodies. So I just used a regular number 2 pencil, and I went ahead and erased the pencil markings from there. Joy says, interesting you say that, that this is something that didn't strike you in the catalog, and that often happens to me. But then when I see somebody else, working with a set, I might think, oh, that's awesome. I think there's so much in there. That would be cool to do the no-line stamping for that card. Oh, the no-line watercolor. Absolutely, absolutely. There's also, I must have set it aside. Can't think of the other one, Shanda. We used Beautiful Moments for the no-line watercoloring. This would be a great one. And there's another one that has the runners and the bike ink. That also would be great for the no-line watercoloring. All right, so let's put some hair on these gals. Again, I'm going to change this up from my original card in terms of the coloring. Now this is the Daffodil Delight, and it appears more orangey, more mango color on when I'm coloring on the crumb cake. So I'm going to darken it up. That's a little much. So she needs some low lights, so I'm adding the Early Espresso pencil to tone that down a bit. Okay, I think that's better. Now she's got some highlights and low lights in there. Okay, and I'm going to use the brown to color the short bob on this other woman. Okay. I think that's pretty good. I was going to say, what kind of blue do we have in here? Here's a balmy blue. I might do a little shading in the background for sort of that sky look. Yes, balmy blue. Sometimes on these, the painted end and the pencil tip do not match the actual color, like here, but when you color on the paper, then you're getting that lighter shade. So, I'm going to use the black, and I'm going to use the black on the other one. Okay, and I'm going to use the black on the other one. So, I'm going to use the black on the other one. So, I'm going to use the black on the other one. So, I'm going to use the black on the other one. So, I'm going to use the black on the other one. So, I'm going to use the black on the other one. So, I'm going to use the black on the other one. So, I'm going to use the black on the other one. So, I'm going to use the black on the other one. So, I'm going to use the black on the other one. So, I'm going to use the black on the other one. So, I'm going to use the black on the other one. So, I'm going to use the black on the other one. So, I'm going to use the black on the other one. So, I'm going to use the black on the other one. So, I'm going to use the black on the other one. So, I'm going to use the black on the other one. So, I'm going to use the black on the other one. So, I'm going to use the black on the other one. So, I'm going to use the black on the other one. So, I'm going to use the black on the other one. So, I'm going to use the bla just so you're aware of that. But I'm just gonna add a little bit of this balmy blue around the figures. Add some blue to the space between the two bodies. Okay. And a little bit along the bottom. So there's another change. That's another way you can step up. I'm going to go back. Oh, lots of you have jumped on. Thank you so much. I'm sorry you're seeing the top of my head there. Oh, Kathleen, wow, you made 125 cards to show caring and support towards your co-workers. That is awesome. And yes, you need this set. So when you do that again, as I know you will, you'll have another option. It's funny, just in the last couple days, I have been, I kind of set aside my celebration brochure and the mini catalog and went back to the annual catalog, just leafing through. And I, like many of you, found things that maybe have not stood out to me before, or perhaps I hadn't thought about in a long time. I believe, Joan Horner, are you on here? I believe it was you put your flap card that you entered into the March Challenge, Creative Challenge on the Stampin' Piece VIP group. You used a paper I had not thought of in a long time, Mosaic Mood specialty paper. And I recently, a few weeks ago probably, made a little tic-tac-toe game using that. And it was so refreshing to see you pull that out to use as well. Very much a beautiful paper in and of itself, but very cheerful and spring-like. So it was fun to see that. Okay, now here's, you know, we have two sides to our DSP. So on this one, I'm going to change it up again by using the opposite side. Yes, Jenny, it really is appropriate for the current situation and appropriate for so many of the things that you and I talked about today, Jenny. All right, now before I go any further and attach this to the card front, now is the time that I want to put my black baker's twine on the front here. And I'm going to have my bow towards that left side. Actually, too, I will show you how you can adjust your bow if you don't get it exactly in the place that you would like it. Nice and firm. You can see it's also, mine's also a little bit loose, so I'm going to give you another tip about that. I've learned that when something doesn't work out or I make a mistake, that they're actually happy mistakes, because I am thinking of them as opportunities to give you some tips and show you how to maybe fix something that you think, oh, that's not quite right. So when I have something like this that it's really too loose, well, first of all, I'll show you how to move it. If you curl your cardstock just a little bit, curl your cardstock, you can move that bow or that knot you just made to any place that you would like it to be. You can move it up and down, or you can move it left to right, right to left, whatever you like. I'm going to have mine very near the right side of my cardstock. Now again, it's still too loose, and I really don't want it to move out of place. So what I'm going to do is just take a small piece of regular Scotch tape, and I'm just going to pull this kind of tight. And I'm going to tape it in place like that, pull it a little tighter this direction. You can even do this in with two pieces of tape if that's a little bit easier. And now you can see it's snug. I don't have so much gap. It's not going to be moving around and sliding around on my card. It'll stay nicely in place. Then I'm going to add some dimensionals. Did you see my last Facebook Live? Was that the, I'm trying to think, what was it? It was the pop-up dinosaur card. I did some matching games and then the pop-up dinosaur cards. Did you notice that that dinosaur card did not have any dimensionals on it? I know, some of you probably fell off your chairs when you were watching. That's highly unusual for me not to use dimensionals on a card. And then I'm just going to center that. Okay. And then the last thing, as I said earlier, I went ahead and colored these earlier. I like to do it ahead of time if I know I'm going to want them colored. It only takes a few seconds to dry. But what I've also realized is, do you see how you have, let me point to it, the sort of some of that residual ink? That gives that a chance to dry also, so that when you're picking up the embellishment, you're not actually picking up that extra ink around it on your putty and transferring it to your card front. So that's the main reason why, if I know for sure that I'm going to want to color the embellishments, I do it ahead of time. I love this take your pick tool. I mean, I can get those exactly lined up right where I want them, the way I want them, with the spacing that I want. Probably is my favorite tool between this and the Stamparatus. That's a close tie. Okay, so that's the project I have for you tonight. Just to review quickly, we used the Artfully Aware stamp set, and I featured our wonderful watercolor pencils. There's 13 in the original set and then 10 different colors in the next set. And then what I showed you is how I found this very, very simple card. And it was by, let's see, it was PriscillaStamps.com. I don't know her last name, but PriscillaStamps.com. And like I said, it just really spoke to me for the current situation. And I just thought it was really lovely, just so simple. And then I stepped it up by then stamping, instead of on the card front, on a piece of crumb cake. And then I backed it with basic black. And then I mounted it with snail or multi-purpose glue. And then the next one I did, the next step up, was I first of all colored the images, and I did add a layer of cardstock that I embossed with the subtle embossing folder, my favorite embossing folder. I was never even going to buy that. I thought, who needs that? It's so subtle, it won't even make a difference. It does make a difference. I love it. And it's my most used embossing folder. Crazy, right? And then I popped up those layers on Stampin' Dimensionals. So 3 changes there. The next thing I did was add the DSP and the coordinating color crumb cake before I added my layers. And then the last thing I did was I added 2 more changes. This bow in the basic black baker's twine. Again, that's from the Country Club twine pack. and then 3 little silver metallic pearls that I colored with the basic black dark Stampin' light marker. Fran, Settles was in your very first order of that catalog. Good for you. I wish I had purchased it right away too, because I love it. I use it so much. All right, thank you all. I'm so happy that our Facebook Live did not get interrupted. Fran, your question is, this piece of cardstock is, give me a second, 2.5 by 3 3/4, and then the black is 2 5/8 by 3 7/8. So 2.5 by 3 3/4, 2 5/8 by 3 7/8. If you're asking, I'm not quite sure if that's what answers your question, or if you're talking about the mat for the Subtles layer, that one is 5 1/4 by 4 inches. Okay. Oh, Jenny, you're welcome. I'm glad you like the cards. If you're still watching and you have not commented, please do so, because as soon as I get off, I will go to commentpicker.com, and one of you will win the card I made tonight. Any questions about these cards or anything else? Kathy, I'm glad you like the cards. I'm happy to be able to share them with you. Hi, Cecilia and Rita. I want to go back and see if I missed any questions. Hi, Vicki. Kathy. If you jumped on late, you know that you can always go back to this video right here on my business page, and in the next few days I will also post it to my stampinpiece.com blog. Let me scroll back. Pam, I'm glad you love it. Oh, Kathy, this is your first time watching from Northeast Ohio. Where do you live? I'm so happy you're here. I'm so happy you joined us. It looks like you know Vicki Parker. Is that right? Did I see that somewhere? Shanda, always nice to have you. Hi, Cindy. Okay, I think I've got all the questions and comments. Okay, great. Thanks for joining me. I will be here on, I will be on my Stampin' Piece VIP group on, let's see, Thursday at 2 p.m. I had a bombshell idea earlier, and I can't ever remember what it is now. Isn't that terrible? Oh, I remember. I'm going to write it down so I don't forget. It's going to be a surprise, though. Have a good night. Stay safe, stay healthy, and do your best to stay connected to the people you love and the people you care about. We can do it. We just have to be a little bit more creative in how we do that. Have a great night. Oh, Kathy, you from south of Cleveland and west of Akron. Oh, what's the name of that? You love the progression of cards. Thank you. Have a good night, ladies. Thanks for joining me. I'm glad you were here.